How should you define your life's purpose? That's the question we're going to contemplate today. And on a fundamental level, you have to stay alive. So that's the main purpose of life. And then the second thing is, what do you do with your life when you are alive? And from a broad perspective, I think, and I've heard some wise men talk about this, that a life well lived has purpose. Okay, so then we have to start to figure out, how is a life well lived? In my opinion, a life well lived is a life with a lot of experiences, a lot of memories, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of nuances. So in the end, life is what you make it, and you define the purpose. And for some people, this can be just too big. It's like, yeah, I don't know, my purpose is to watch TV. Yes, if you make that your life purpose and you feel content about it. So now we get to the next level, and that's how it feels. We can think about a life and it should be like this, but when we live the life, how does it feel? And this is essentially why you have to try different stuff to know how it feels. If you've never played tennis, you cannot know how it feels to play tennis, no matter how much you think about it. We can go even deeper on feelings, and there's positive feelings and negative feelings, okay? So, is a life well lived if it's positive? I think not, because if you don't have the negative experiences, the positive experiences don't really have any context. So, is it more about going after a balanced life? I think now we're getting closer to a direction in life, and I think it's balance. And if you start striving for balance, it means you need to have security on one end, and you need to have risk on the other end. And in between, it's never gonna be like strict, like a line. It's gonna be a wave like this. And that's when life becomes fun. You're gonna have periods in your time when you feel totally without purpose. You feel totally useless in this world, and you don't know if you should just poof, disappear. But after those periods of time, if you actually go inside and you start looking for, may even be obvious answers, they're just too obvious that you need to do something that you've already done, or that you just need to do something really simple. And when we understand this, that everything goes in seasons, and these seasons are actually the interesting part. Let's take an example here. Imagine a road, and it's only straight and flat. How long can you drive on that road before you get bored? I know some Americans have this when you drive through a desert or something, and it just goes on and on and on. But then you can think of northern Norway or the Alps. The roads, they are like super interesting. Which of those roads would you want to drive on for longer? And I know from experience that a mix of both is the right answer, at least for me. That's when you kind of experience the boring, the even, you can relax, you can calm down, you can reset your nervous system, and then you go for a ride again. So I like to think of life, and life purposes also, it's always gonna be in chapters. And if you choose that, okay, I'm gonna do a challenge for 100 days or a year or something like this, it becomes easier to process, and you live your purpose in that way. Then we come to, okay, we need to consider time here, because if you chop up your purposes in different time slots, makes it more interesting, right? All these sports leagues, they have a certain season and then they have a break because people are gonna be fully focused on that season. Imagine if a season just went on and on and on and on and on in football or basketball or whatever. You would get super bored. You would just be like, what's the point of this? So, my suggestion is that you start thinking of your life purpose as these levels or just seasons. And now you can start to see that, oh, you could even have a certain purpose for a week. That I know people who do that. They go on a deserted island for a week. They go to the woods for a week, and that's their purpose, to experience that. And then some people might settle down and be like, okay, for the next 10 years, I'm gonna do this. That's another time frame. But you can play with these. And when you get this idea that you need to find your purpose, you can always choose how big that purpose is. You can first choose that, okay, for a week, I'm just gonna try out different stuff just to see how I feel. And nothing else. I don't think about anything else. And you make this tiny decision to go and do new stuff for a week. Suddenly, you're much smarter. And then you can start taking the next step and see what you want. And I want to add that this life purpose idea that a lot of people talk about, I think it's too generalized because no one has only a single purpose in life. It's kind of this grandiose idea to have only one life purpose and that's the main purpose, it's the only one. That's not balanced. Because if you only go with one purpose, you're gonna miss out on so many different things and you won't really know. And I made a video about this. You need to let go sometimes of the thing you think you love the most, and then you can actually see how much you love it. And it's the same with purpose. Play around with it. Keep it a little bit open. Have some values, have some frameworks, have some ideologies about your thing that you want to do, but be flexible. Because if you're not flexible, you cannot know the whole story. If you're not willing to go and do the wrong decisions, to kind of make mistakes and fail, you're not living fully. And if you're not living fully, how can you ever find your ultimate purpose? And when you find something that truly sparks your heart and you're like, wow, that sparks the excitement, that's what I want to do, even just on a mental level, go and try and do that. Find the minimum viable way to do that thing and see if it's even close to what you thought. Because experiences and thought may be totally different things. Let's take, for example, public speaking. You think that you are this much afraid or you might be this much nervous when you do it, so you sign up for it, and then when you go and do that, you're just overwhelmed because you can never think about something and feel the way it's gonna feel when you do it in reality. So you have to take action. But the first step is you can think about and see how your body reacts when you're like, okay, let's go bungee jumping. Okay, if you get excited, maybe you should put it on a list, schedule it in, go try it. Like, why not? Because when you start doing these things, new pathways open up and new things open up. And I'm living proof of that. If someone would have asked me when I was 25 if I was gonna do YouTube videos where I talk to the camera in English, I would have been like, what are you talking about? Why would I do that? That's not at all what I imagine myself doing. And now somehow I ended up in this position where I just feel called to do this. Isn't that funny? And all because I kind of had to learn to let go of control. And I've walked a path that's full of ups and downs, and sometimes I feel that I need the straight, the calm, and that's what I actually try to do now, because I know really well when you go for 10-15 years just full on, because I used to be a snowboarder and I've skateboarded, I still surf, and that's the life I've been living. And I understand to actually find my purpose, I had to slow down because the path started to end. The thing that I was just running and running and running, it didn't give me purpose anymore. It didn't I didn't see the future in that. So now it's more about, okay, if I slow down, if I think about stuff, and if I try different stuff that I thought was boring before, that's where I start to find new pieces of myself. Because every time you do something new, you kind of find a new version of yourself, because you're going to react in new ways that might even shock you, and you're just like, wow, I didn't know I had that in me. And this is the whole point with going after your purpose. It's gonna be in the unknown, where you're gonna find out truly what you want and what you need. And you can see some older people who actually have started to follow their path, their inner voice, when they were younger, and they are so content and they are just calm. One example is Rick Rubin. He's always been this guy who's kind of just, listen to yourself. I'm my best critic. I'm the one who's gonna take full responsibility for how I live and what kind of life and how I work. And that's amazing. And there's some artists also, painters, who just walk their own path, and when they're older, they don't have regret. They're proud of what they're done, and that's beautiful. But if you don't go outside of the comfort zone and try and do stuff, you will never know. You will never know your purpose if you just stay in a 9 to 5. But if you exit that 9 to 5, do something else, and then go back to the 9 to 5 and realize that's your purpose, then it becomes beautiful, because you know you have something to compare it to. So defining your purpose is never gonna be a one-time thing. It's never gonna be just this one single solution. And what I suggest, what I told you, that think about it in seasons. Think about it, oh, what can I do for the next 3 months? Or what can I do for the next week? And once you start doing this, then you start to realize, oh, I want to try out this one thing I really love. Let's say I do it for 3 years, and you commit for 3 years. You're gonna find out so many things during that period of time that you wouldn't have if you just did something randomly. So intention is really important, because intention gives meaning to the actual event or the happening or the thing that you are doing. Your purpose is found in your intention on how you are going to live a life well lived. Okay, I think we're getting to the end of this video. It was a really fun contemplation. It was a stream of consciousness from me to you, and I met your future purpose, here to help you find more fulfillment and just following your passion in your life, because that's what I'm doing and it feels good. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the future.